Welcome once again to Forced Perspective, the review show where I run out of ideas immediately, but keep talking anyways. Today we're going to be taking a look at Runers, a game heavily dependent on runes and death. Bit of a strange combination, really. You're a man, or a woman, or a mummy, you know, whatever, no discrimination. Anyway, some bad stuff happened. Well, a lot of bad stuff happened, so naturally you delve into a dangerous dungeon, kill everything that moves, collect some runes, and then die to a clown. Yeah, I really wish I was creative enough to make that up. So, the game! Runers is a top-down RPG shooter with randomly generated levels, and permadeath. Yes, and like that, it also is floor-based, with random rooms on those floors. Really, the only difference besides the overall style is the fact that Runers is faster-paced and has more variety. Which are both good things. So, I enjoyed this game. Let's just get that out of the way now. And here's a quick rundown of the mechanics and basic feel of the game so you can determine if you too would enjoy this piece of interactive video entertainment. I don't know about that. They may have been a little bit too sensationalist. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the spell crafting. As you go through the dungeon, you collect runes that are used to create spells. There are 10 different rune types, the elements, and then much like Captain Planet, there's some other useless shit. Seriously, there's a mind rune. You might as well have just called it Heart and been done with it. But anyways, with different combination of these runes, you can make one of the unique 285 spells. And each of these spells are actually unique. I kind of expected them just to be slightly larger versions of previous spells that did more damage, but no, they range anywhere from normal projectiles to a slightly delayed earth spike, from an orbiting molten hammer to Palpatine's force lightning, from a buff to a debuff? Okay, I mean, I guess that one's not all exciting, but you get the point. And even the ones that are in the same vein feel different enough to make you change the way you deal with the situation based upon the spells you have at the time. Basically, the spell diversity kept things fresh, and that diversity is consistent with the enemy variety. Well, ignoring the 30 different variants of a wizard. The enemies are decently mechanically unique, despite the fact that visually a lot of them are just palette swaps, and then you add in the mini-bosses that you have a chance of encountering, and they'll keep you on your toes. There are also actual bosses, though. That's the next section. This is awkward. Okay, so because apparently it's the word of the day, I'm gonna tell you that the bosses too are unique. But honestly, I don't know how else to describe it. They are. You've got your standard shoot it until it dies bosses, sure, but then you've also got things like fighting darkness itself by keeping torches lit while being attacked by his minions, or staying in a specific area while avoiding death's onslaught of projectiles, bullet hell style. And then there's, then there's an old man's face made out of air. You have to stand inside of his face until he dies. That one, yeah, that one's definitely unique. But seriously, even though I haven't encountered every boss, of the ones I have fought, half of them haven't been your standard DPS race, and although after a while they may seem a bit gimmicky, when you first come across them, they're pretty interesting. Well, now that we've talked about what you'll be killing and how you'll be killing said things, I guess we should look at the murderer in question. So, basically character selection. But seriously, the game flat out tells you that this guy is, and I quote, a helpless man. He doesn't even try to actively attack you, and boom! Fireball to the face. Anyways, basically these are bonuses. These are used to determine your sprite and active ability. Choose one of each, a starting spell, and get straight to killing hermits. And you should really get to work on that, because you kill enough innocents and you get to level up and choose one of the randomly selected perks, ranging from more health to stunning all enemies when you're about to die. It's a pretty decent system. I felt at this point maybe they obsessed about the random element a little too much, but it works. Now, as a bit of a middle section before I talk about the things that I didn't like, which are more or less the save system, well, that and the fact that bats are the most annoying and dangerous thing in the entire game. But anyways, the middle section. Basically, there's some challenges. Not a big thing, not much of a thing, period, really. There's test of accuracy, time trials, test of avoidance, things like that, and each one progresses in difficulty. For instance, in this one you have to avoid rats, and then you have to avoid dire rats, and then you avoid... No, I did it. Okay, never mind. But anyways, the challenges, they exist. Now on to the save system. So I said the save system is the only thing I didn't like, but even that seems a bit nitpicky. The game only saves when you complete a floor, and you can only let it save once, which makes sense, most roguelikes do that, but I wish it saved on a room-by-room basis, because although it may not have been the creator's intent, to me, this is a game I play in between doing other things. I don't want to dedicate a large amount of time doing one session. Like I said, this is kind of nitpicky, because it only takes 15 to 20 minutes per floor, but when I first played it, I didn't know that, and it did negatively affect my enjoyment of the first few attempts. They most certainly were not playthroughs. Oh god, there's so many! Why? No, you stay back! Yeah! Yeah, there's no theatrics here. Jesters are just creepy. Yeah. Okay, so for the sake of others, there is one more thing I'd like to mention as a potential turnoff, and that's the fact that the combat is kind of repetitive. And you could say, to some extent, that this is a fault of the genre, there's only so much you can do with this formula, but in this one in particular, every enemy just sort of mobs towards you, so you just kite around them, constantly firing until everything's dead, and some of the CC spells help with this, but they don't actually fix the problem. Personally, I didn't have a problem with this, but if it sounds like a deal breaker, well, it probably is. And now to summarize everything needlessly. Ruiners is an RPG shooter with roguelike elements and a spellcrafting system. The number of spells available is significant, with a total coming to 285. The enemy variety keeps its course with a total of 130 enemies, and although many of those are palette swaps with slightly changed attributes, when combined with the mini-bosses, there is still enough to keep things interesting. Along with those standard enemies and mini-bosses, there are 10 actual bosses, and that sentence sounded rather strange. Anyways, the bosses are interesting and range from your normal DPS race to survival performing special tasks until the boss's health reaches 0. The issues you might have with Ruiners is the fact that the combat can become repetitive due to the enemy's mob mentality and the game's fast-paced nature. If you don't think you'll have a problem with this, then Ruiners can provide you with many hours of entertainment and leaderboard envy. There's a leaderboard is what I'm saying. I started mentioning things that I didn't think were interesting enough for, you know, the main section. So, there you go. Thanks for watching. Click over here to watch the last review I made. It's a game that nobody seems to have heard of because it's not on Steam. So if you want to feel like a video games hipster, here's your chance. Like I said, it's a vertical platformer, which you don't see a lot. I mean, the last true vertical platformer that I played was probably Ice Climbers. So yeah, not very common. And the first thing you'll probably notice in this one, besides the art style, which is actually quite interesting, is the progression system. In the form of a store, you collect coins.